It started with a whisper over wine. You're the only one I trust with this, Claire. Julia's voice shook, and her hands trembled just enough for me to reach over and steady the glass. We were sitting on my back porch, watching the last of the summer sun bleed into the sky. She had just turned 38. I had been there for every heartbreak, every doctor's appointment, every tear-soaked night when another pregnancy test came back negative. We'd been best friends since high school. The kind of friends who knew each other's pharmacy PINs, passwords, and were secrets. Now, she was asking me for something bigger than secrets. I need help affording IVF, she said. Her voice cracking. I've tried everything, Claire. Loans, grants, they all say no. You're my last hope. It wasn't a guilt trip. It wasn't manipulation. It was desperation. The kind that spills from your chest when every door has slammed. Shut and the dream still pounds at your ribs. Julia had been through so much. A messy divorce at 35. Fibroid surgery. 3 rounds of failed IUI. And now, her doctor told her IVF was her best chance. Only insurance didn't cover it. And the cost was staggering. I looked at her and saw more than my best friend. I saw the girl who held my hair back after my first night drinking. The one who bought me groceries after I got laid off. The woman who dropped everything to fly home when my dad died. How could I say no? I didn't hesitate. I'll pay for it, I said. She blinked, stunned. Claire, no, that's too much. It's almost $28,000, I smiled. I've got it saved. I was gonna remodel the kitchen. But this matters more. She cried for 15 minutes straight. Hugged me like I had handed her a miracle, I guess. In a way, I had. I wired the money that week, and for the next 6 months, I became her second heartbeat. I went to every appointment. I learned the hormone schedules, the injection times, the side effects. I sat in the car during egg retrieval. I held her hand before the embryo transfer. I bought the ridiculous pineapple socks, made her the damn fertility smoothies, even kept a journal of baby name ideas. We passed back and forth like teenagers dreaming of the future. And when the pregnancy test turned up to pink lines, we both screamed. Claire, it worked. She sobbed on the phone. We're having a baby. That word meant something to me, like I had become part of something sacred. I didn't want anything in return, just to be there, just to see her become the mother she always dreamed of being. But slowly, things shifted. At first, it was subtle. She stopped picking up every call, but I figured she was tired. The first trimester was no joke. Then came the missed texts, the vague "so busy lately" messages. I chalked it up to hormones. Maybe nesting, maybe fear. Then came the baby shower, or rather, the one I wasn't invited to. I found out about the baby shower through Instagram. A photo popped up on my feed. Julia glowing in a flower crown, surrounded by pastel balloons, smiling beside a 3-tier cake shaped like a crib. The caption read, "Feeling so loved today. Baby Grace is already so spoiled. Thank you to everyone who made today unforgettable." My throat went dry. I stared at the picture for a solid minute, waiting for the realization to click into place. Surely it was a surprise shower, and I'd get a call any second with laughter and guilt in her voice. Claire, we meant to include you. It was just so last minute. Or maybe she texted the wrong number. Maybe she thought I couldn't make it. But there was nothing. Not a missed call, not a text, not even a tag. I scrolled through the photos, trying to piece together how I could have been forgotten, or worse, excluded. I recognized some faces, coworkers, gym friends, her cousin from Wisconsin, people she rarely even mentioned. But not me, not the person who made that baby even possible. I clicked off the app and just sat in silence. For the first time since this journey began, I felt like an outsider. Like I had been useful, like a donor or a credit card, and once the transaction was complete, my presence was no longer required. I told myself not to overreact. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe someone else planned it. Maybe she just forgot. A week later, I confronted her. "Hey," I said, casually, trying not to sound hurt. "I saw some photos from your shower. Looked beautiful. Wish I could have been there." Her reply came quickly. "Oh, it was really last minute, just a few girls from my yoga class and some family. You wouldn't have known them." That stung. But I would have loved to be there, Julia. I mean, I thought I was part of this. There was a long pause. Then, almost defensively, she said, "Claire, don't make this about you. This isn't your pregnancy." I felt the words slap me. I'm not making it about me. I was there every step of the way. I supported you when no one else did. She sighed. "And I appreciate that. But you're starting to act like you're owed something I didn't ask you to pay." "You offered." "I offered because I love you," I said, voice cracking. "Not because I wanted something in return. But being iced out like this after everything, how can you pretend like I'm just no one?" She didn't reply. The next day, she unfollowed. me on Instagram. By the time the baby was born, she hadn't spoken to me in over a month. No updates. No photos, no texts. The woman who once called me her sister in spirit now acted like I didn't exist. And when I sent a message congratulating her after seeing a birth announcement online, no reply. I cried for hours that night, not just because of the betrayal but because I had built memories with her that now felt one-sided. I remembered feeling her baby kick, seeing the sonogram, planning the nursery color schemes. Now, all of that was invisible, erased. As if my love and sacrifice had expired with the swipe of a credit card. I wasn't asking for a medal, I just wanted to be remembered. I didn't reach out again for a while. The silence between us stretched like a fraying rope then, tense and ready to snap. Every time I thought about texting her, I stopped myself. I'd type something, maybe just a thinking of you, but I'd erase it before sending. I wasn't even sure what I was trying to salvage anymore. Was it the friendship, the memory of what we were, or was I just clinging to the idea that all that love, all that sacrifice, had to mean something? In early February, I ran into her mom at Trader Joe's. It was one of those small-town moments you couldn't script. I was reaching for oat milk. She was picking up flowers. "Oh, Claire," she said. Like she hadn't heard all the unspoken things floating between Julia and me. "How are you, honey?" Julia said. The baby finally started sleeping through the night. I blinked. She mentioned me. Her mom hesitated. "Well, not recently. But we know how much you helped. We still can't believe you paid for all of it. You were a godsend." I forced a smile. "Has she been okay?" "I haven't seen her since. She's just been adjusting," she said quickly. "You know how it is with new moms. Hormones, exhaustion. It's like she's in her own world." I nodded. But the words didn't feel real. Julia wasn't just a new mom. She was a woman who had spent years fighting for motherhood, begging the universe for a child. She wanted this more than anything. Now that she had it, she was acting like I was some inconvenience from a past life. I knew I wasn't owed daily check-ins. But after everything, to be treated like a stranger, it didn't sit right. Later that night, I opened the photo folder I kept on my laptop titled Baby Journey, Julia. It held screenshots of our conversations, ultrasound pics, even the positive pregnancy test she had texted me at 2 a.m. with IT worked. There were videos of her laughing on the way to the fertility clinic, bloated from meds but glowing with hope, notes I took for her to keep track of injections, grocery lists tailored to her fertility diet. I had saved it all like a scrapbook, like a story we were writing together. Now it felt like a eulogy. I clicked through until I landed on the invoice, the original clinic estimate for the IVF procedure. $27,980. The subject line in my inbox still read, "Thank you again, Claire. You saved my life." That was from Julia, sent at 6:13 p.m. on the day I paid the deposit. I stared at those words for a long time. And then I cried again, this time not because I felt betrayed. This time it was grief. Because friendship, real friendship, isn't supposed to expire. It isn't supposed to end once someone gets what they want. You don't erase someone who stayed when no one else did. You don't ghost the person who picked out the pieces of your shattered dreams and handed them back with hope. Julia didn't just cut me off. She rewrote the narrative. She made me the villain in a story I helped build. Weeks passed. I tried to focus on work, on myself, on anything that would pull me out of the fog Julia had left me in. But the silence was louder than ever. Every time my phone buzzed, I half hoped it was her. Every time I checked social media, I wondered if she had posted anything about the baby, if I could at least see the little girl I helped bring into the world. But she had blocked me. Not just on Instagram. Everywhere. When I tried to visit her Facebook profile, it read, "This content isn't available right now." Her TikTok was gone. Even her Pinterest board, the one we had created together to plan the nursery, was deactivated or maybe just locked to me. I was erased. And that hurt more than I knew how to explain. I didn't want a parade. I didn't want her to name the baby after me or shower me with constant gratitude. I wanted my friend. I wanted the late night talks, the inside jokes. The way she used to grab my hand when she was scared and whisper, "Just tell me I'm not crazy." Instead, she acted like I was a crazy one for expecting anything at all. I confided in my sister, Monica, one night over red wine and boxed pizza. She was always blunt, but kind. "Claire," she said, "you gave her the things she wanted most in the world, and maybe that made you part of a chapter she's trying to move on from. That doesn't make it right." "No, it doesn't," she agreed. "But it might explain it." I bit the edge of my nail. "Is it wrong to want to meet the baby?" "Just once, to hold her, even for a minute." "No," she said gently. "But you have to prepare for the possibility that you won't." The next day, I did something that felt both desperate and humiliating. I emailed Julia. Just a short note, subject, "No hard feelings, buddy. I hope you're okay. I just wanted to say I still care about you and always will. If you ever feel like talking, I'm here." I don't need anything from you, I just wanted you to know I still think of you and the baby often. Claire, no response. A week passed, then two. I told myself to delete the email, to move on. But I couldn't because something about the whole thing still felt off. One night, unable to sleep, I logged into a backup Instagram account I had created years ago. It was private, with no followers. I searched for Julia's name, fully expecting the block to carry over, but to my surprise, her account was public and open. The first post I saw nearly knocked the breath from my chest. It was a photo of her cradling the baby, chubby cheeks, tiny fingers, and the caption read, "Just us. Two girls. No one else needed." Below that, dozens of comments. One in particular stood out. "So proud of you for doing this all on your own, mama. You never needed anyone to save you. Look at you now." And her reply, "Thank you. I'm so glad. I trusted my gut and kept my circle tight." She wasn't just ignoring me. She was rewriting history, acting like I'd never been there, like I hadn't handed over $28,000 without a second thought, like I hadn't stayed up night after night researching clinics, comforting her after failed attempts, driving her to appointments, holding her hand while she cried over hormone crashes and broken hopes. Now I was a ghost, not even a footnote. In the story of her success, I didn't cry immediately. I just sat there, staring at that photo on her feed, zooming in on the baby's face, searching for features that resembled Julia's. Then I noticed the ones that didn't, the round eyes, the slight cleft in the chin, the deep dimple on the left cheek. All things I didn't remember from the donor profile she had picked up. My stomach tightened. I scrolled further. There were other posts now, some with the baby, some selfies of Julia, beaming with captions like "me" and "my miracle," and "build this life" with no one's help. But it was a video posted 3 weeks earlier that made my heart stutter. She was at a birthday party, cake, balloons, glitter everywhere. In the background was a man holding the baby, young, broad-shouldered, smiling. He kissed the baby's cheek. Someone in the comments asked, "Is that the father?" And Julia's reply, "Kind of. Long story, but he's here now." I felt like I'd been slapped. What long story? There hadn't been a man, not during any of the IVF treatments, not during the countless late-night conversations she had sworn she didn't want. One said she didn't trust men anymore, that this baby would be hers alone. We had cried about it together, grieved that loss. Now suddenly, he's here now? I stared at her words until the screen blurred. It all made sense, the distancing, the silence, the blocks. Julia had built a new narrative for herself and I didn't fit in it anymore. Worse than that, I contradicted it. I was the evidence that she hadn't done it all on her own, that someone had carried her when she couldn't carry herself. She didn't want that version of her story to exist. So she buried me. I called Monica again. This time, I couldn't keep my voice steady. "I feel so stupid," I whispered. "She's pretending I don't even exist. She told people she did this all alone. And now there's some guy, and it's like I imagine everything." Monica didn't interrupt. She just listened. "She used me," I finally said. "I think she used me." There was silence for a beat. Then Monica asked the one question I had been avoiding. "Claire, did you two ever sign anything? Like a contract?" "No, of course not. We were best friends," Monica sighed. "I'm not saying you should sue her or anything, but you gave her a lot, financially, emotionally, at the very least. Don't you think she owed you honesty?" "I did. God, I did. But I also knew that asking for it now would only make me look petty." There was no contract, no documentation, just a trail of Venmo transactions and old text messages that she could easily delete. And what would I do with that? Try to expose her, make a scene? She had already locked me out of her life. If I knocked now, I'd just look bitter, unhinged. And worse, I feel that way. So instead, I wrote. I sat down and poured my thoughts into my journal like I used to do when I was 15, and heartbroken. But this time, the heartbreak ran deeper. This wasn't a boy who stopped texting. This was a sister by choice. A woman I'd held through panic attacks, defended during ugly family fights, stood beside through 3 failed embryo transfers, and who had now replaced me with a man and a lie. I wrote until the sun rose. Then I opened my laptop and began deleting old photos from my phone, birth plan notes, doctor contacts, voice memos, all of it. But when I got to the folder labeled Julia IVF, I hesitated. Inside were screenshots of our messages. Her ultrasound, a photo she'd sent me of herself in a hospital gown, crying with happiness, holding the embryo report in shaking hands. "Couldn't have done this without you," she had written. And yet she had, or at least, that's what she wanted everyone to believe. I didn't delete the Julia IVF folder. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Every time I hovered over the delete button, some invisible tether pulled me back. Maybe it was nostalgia, maybe it was pain, maybe I just wasn't ready to erase proof that I mattered, because right now, I didn't, not in Julia's new life. Not in her version of the story where I was a footnote at best, or erased at worst. A few weeks passed, I didn't reach out again. I told myself it was for my own healing. But part of me was still clinging to the hope that she would call. That she'd realize what she'd done, apologize, and bring me back into the circle of her world. That call never came. But one did from Monica. She was scrolling Instagram when she saw something. "Claire," she said gently. "You're not going to like this." My stomach turned to stone. She sent me a screenshot. Julia had done a sponsored post, holding her baby in one arm, smiling into the camera. The caption read, "After years of praying, I made my dream come true all by myself. Single motherhood is hard but beautiful. Grateful for science, faith, and perseverance. Hashtag #MiracleBaby, hashtag IVF journey, hashtag strong moms." My mouth went dry. All by myself. That phrase echoed in my skull like a cruel punchline. I had fronted over $28,000 for her procedures, drove her to clinics, slept on her couch, gave up time, energy, and pieces of myself to support her, and now she was selling a fantasy of strength and isolation. For likes, for validation, for money. I texted Monica back. She erased me so she could brand herself as a self-made warrior. Monica replied, "That's exactly what this is, a brand." That word brand made something shift in me because Julia was branding herself, not just as a mother, but as a narrative, the survivor, the self-sufficient, the symbol. And I was inconvenient to that symbol. I was a backstage crew no one wanted to see. That night, I couldn't sleep, so I opened the folder. Again, read through the screenshots. Messages from Julia thanking me, weeping with relief after tests, begging me not to leave her when things got hard, every word a contradiction to what she now claimed. Then I did something reckless. I posted, not publicly, just on a private forum for women who had supported others through IVF. I shared my story, anonymously. I didn't use her name. I didn't even say where I was from. But I told the truth, that I had helped a friend through her IVF journey, paid for nearly all of it, been there every step of the way, and that once she had the baby, she ghosted me, pretended I didn't exist, told the world she did it alone. The comments flooded in. Some were angry on my behalf, some shared eerily similar stories. Others asked why I didn't protect myself legally. One comment hit especially hard. Some people only see others as tools to get what they want. You were the latter. Now that she's reached the top, she doesn't need the steps anymore. It was brutal, but it was true. That post went viral on the forum. It was shared in private groups. People DM'd me, thanking me for speaking up. A woman messaged me privately to say she had just gone through the same thing with her sister Dot, and for the first time in months. I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen, even without names or pictures or receipts. My pain had resonance, because it was real, and sadly, it wasn't rare. A week later, I got an email. Not from Julia. From a podcast producer. She had read the post and wanted to interview me anonymously, if needed, for a series they were doing on modern betrayals. My heart pounded. I wasn't sure if I was ready to speak, to open the wounds again. But maybe I could take my pain and do something with it. Maybe I could be honest even if Julia wasn't. I didn't say yes immediately. I sat with the email for a few days, reread it over morning coffee, then again before bed. I imagined my voice crackling through someone's headphones, telling the story I had kept locked in my chest for months. I imagined strangers nodding along, whispering, "Me too." But then I'd imagine Julia's face. Not the cold stranger she'd become, but the woman she used to be. The one who cried in my arms after another failed cycle. Who once said, "If this works, Claire, you'll be the godmother, I swear." And then I remember how she hadn't even told me when the baby was born. Eventually, I responded to the podcast producer. I agreed, but under the conditions, no names. I didn't want to humiliate Julia, even if she didn't extend me the same courtesy. No promoting revenge. I didn't want to turn my heartbreak into some clickbait scandal. I wanted it to mean something. The producer Caroline was kind. She said she understood. She said stories like mine needed telling. We recorded remotely a week later. My voice trembled through the first 10 minutes, but then something shifted. Like I'd finally found the language to name the wound. I told her everything. How Julia and I had been inseparable. How I'd become her emotional and financial anchor. How I had paid for her treatments out of love, not obligation. And how, once she had what she wanted, she vanished without so much as a thank you. Caroline asked, if she were listening right now, what would you say to her? I paused, then I said, I hope your baby never learns what you did to get her. It wasn't bitterness, it was heartbreak. I wouldn't wish that kind of duplicity on an innocent child. After we wrapped, I felt lighter. Like I had let go of something. The episode aired 2 weeks later. It didn't go viral, but it reached the right ears. Listeners sent in hundreds of messages. Many shared their own betrayals. Some were women like me, supporters turned strangers. Others were moms who admitted they had forgotten the people who helped them in their pursuit of motherhood. I was a Julia once, one message read. You've made me call someone I should have never cut out. Thank you, it didn't change what happened, but it mattered. Then something unexpected happened. Julia emailed me. Not a call, not a message. An email, cold, formal, subject line, please take down the podcast episode. There was no hi Claire, or how are you, just I heard the podcast. I know it's about me. It's extremely disrespectful to air personal matters like that, even anonymously. I'm asking you to take it down. This affects my reputation and my child. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes before laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was so on brand. She didn't deny what she did, didn't apologize, didn't even acknowledge my pain. Her only concern was her image. Her reputation. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the email to Caroline, who confirmed that everything we did was legal and protected under free speech. The story would stay up. And it did. But it didn't end there. A few days later, Julia posted on her private Facebook, some people love to play the victim when they're the ones who cross the line. Jealousy is a disease I'm praying for healing for both of us. Monica sent me a screenshot. It didn't hurt anymore. It was just sad. Julia hadn't changed. And maybe she never would. But I no longer needed her validation. I no longer craved her apology. I have found peace in the truth and in the community of women who, like me, gave everything and were left behind. Months passed. The podcast faded into the background of daily life, like a song you once loved but now only hear when the shuffle gods decide to remind you. Then one morning, an envelope arrived. No return address. No handwriting, just a plain ivory envelope wedged between an electric bill and a local real estate flyer. My name was typed in small font on the front, Claire Summers. Inside was a folded note and a photograph. The note read, I don't owe you this, but maybe I owe myself some peace, Jay. That was it. No apology, no explanation. Just something. The photograph was of a baby girl. No name, no birth date, just a soft, sleepy infant wrapped in a sunflower patterned blanket, her mouth yawn. I stared at the photo for a long time. This was her, the child I had poured my savings into. The reason Julia had ghosted me, the living, breathing product of love, science, and betrayal. I didn't cry. I thought I would. I thought seeing her would rip the scab off everything. But instead, I just felt quiet. I took the photo and slid it into a drawer, not out of resentment, but because I didn't know where it belonged in my life yet. Weeks turned into more months. I stopped checking Julia's socials, stopped asking mutuals about her. I moved forward slowly, awkwardly, but forward. Then, in early spring, I met someone. His name was Daniel. He wasn't flashy or poetic. He didn't have a tragic backstory or a guitar in his closet, but he listened. He remembered little things I said. He asked about my family, my work, and without pushing, he asked about the podcast. I told him the story, watered down at first. Then one night, after too much Thai food and wine, I told him everything. He didn't flinch. He didn't say, wow, you're dramatic, or maybe she just got busy. He said, that must have hurt like hell. That night, when he kissed me, it felt like the first time in years I had been seen, not pitied, not used. Seen. He didn't fix me. That's not how healing works. But he stood beside me as I stitched myself back together. One Saturday, about 6 months into our relationship, he asked me, do you ever want to be a mom? I hesitated, not because I didn't know, but because the answer had changed. There was a time when I thought I'd be the cool aunt, the supportive best friend, the emergency contact, but never the one whose name went on a birth certificate. That was Julia's dream, not mine. But now, for the first time, I wondered if it could be my dream, too. I think, maybe, I said softly, but only if I can do it surrounded by the right kind of love. He nodded. That was the thing about Daniel. He didn't rush answers. He let them breathe. Round that same time, I received another email. This time, not from Julia. It was from a woman named Rachel, a stranger who had listened to the podcast months earlier. She wrote, I just wanted to say thank you. Your story made me see how I had become so focused on my fertility journey that I neglected the people holding me up. I reached out to my sister who I hadn't spoken to in a year, and we cried on the phone for an hour. You gave me back someone I thought I'd lost forever. I cried reading that, because I realized that even if Julia never saw the damage she did, even if she never felt remorse, my story still mattered. It helped someone else make a different choice. And that meant everything. Spring turned to summer. The world felt brighter, and so did I. I started taking long walks without music, just letting my thoughts stretch out like lazy cats in the sun. I picked up painting again. Nothing serious, just abstract shapes and soft colors that looked like how healing felt. Daniel, and I visited his parents in Vermont. We grilled on their deck, watched fireflies blink in the backyard, and talked about things I never thought I'd feel safe discussing again: family, future, forgiveness. It was on that trip that I finally told his mom the full story. She held my hand and said, "Honey, some people come into our lives to take, but it's the ones who stay to give back that you build your home with." And I think that was the moment I realized something important. Julia never intended to stay. She was never building a life with me. I was just scaffolding, temporary, sturdy, and meant to be taken down once the structure stood on its own. And that wasn't my failure. That was hers. I stopped looking at the photo of the baby girl, not because I didn't care, but because she wasn't mine to carry anymore. That chapter, painful and poignant, had been written. Now, it was time to close that book and start another. But fate, as always, had its own pen. I was standing in line at a coffee shop downtown. An unassuming Tuesday, no makeup, messy ponytail, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Claire?" I turned slowly. There she was. Julia. Thinner, paler. Her once glossy hair tied back in a lazy bun. No baby in sight. No glowing Instagram filter. Just her, raw, real. She looked like a woman who hadn't slept through the night in months. And still, my stomach flipped. Not out of love. Not even out of hate. Just old muscle memory. "Hi," I said carefully. Her eyes scanned me, my eyes, my hands, my posture, as if trying to measure whether I was still angry, or worse, indifferent. "You look good," she said. I gave a small nod. "Thanks." An awkward silence. Then she blurted out, "I wanted to reach out so many times, but I didn't know how." "You ghosted me, Julia," I said, not unkindly, but clearly. "You used me, and then you left. There's not a lot of gray area." She swallowed hard. I was overwhelmed. The baby, the hormones, the guilt. I didn't handle it right. That's an understatement, I know. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know it wasn't about you. I shut everyone out. I looked at her for a long moment. She wasn't lying. But that didn't make her right. "I spent over $15,000 helping you become a mother." I said. "That wasn't charity. That was love, and you treated it like a transaction." She winced. "I'm sorry." It was the first time I'd heard those words from her. They didn't feel as satisfying as I expected, because by now, I didn't need them. I had already made peace. "I hope your daughter is doing well," I said. "She's everything," she whispered, "and I'm trying to be better for her." I nodded. "Good." Then I turned, collected my coffee, and walked out. I didn't look back, because for the first time in years, I wasn't chasing closure. I was the closure. I didn't cry after seeing Julia. Not on the walk home, not in the shower that evening, not when I told Daniel about it, while we were brushing our teeth in the soft glow of bathroom light. Instead, I felt something quieter than sadness, something that felt like peace. Letting go didn't mean the pain never happened. It meant the pain no longer controlled me. It meant I could remember Julia without bleeding. A week later, I got a letter, not a text. Not an email. An actual envelope, hand-addressed, with a soft, floral note card inside. It was from Julia. There wasn't much in it, just a few lines. But they stayed with me. "Claire, I owe you more than an apology. And I know I may never be the friend you deserved. But I want you to know that I kept your name. On her birth certificate, her middle name is Claire. She'll always know the woman who made her possible. With love, Julia." I sat on the couch for a long time after reading it. Tears came. Then, but not bitter ones. Just quiet, tender grief for the friendship we lost. And a strange kind of gratitude that, even in the ashes, something had been left behind. A name. A gesture. Proof that, despite everything, I had mattered. I never wrote her back. Some things are better left unsaid. Some chapters closed not with punctuation but with white space. Months passed, seasons turned again, the world kept spinning. Daniel and I moved into a bigger place. Nothing fancy, just a little more space, a tiny garden. A second bedroom we used for guests and the occasional art project. One night, while we were sipping wine on the balcony, he asked, "Do you ever wish things had gone differently?" I knew what he meant. He didn't say Julia's name, but she was in the room anyway, like an old song playing faintly in the background. I thought about it, about what could have been if she'd stayed loyal. If our friendship had matured with motherhood, if the child I'd helped bring into the world still had me in it. But then I looked at Daniel. At the life we built. At the woman I'd become. I used to, I admitted, but not anymore. He smiled and took my hand. Sometimes, life doesn't reward the most generous. Sometimes it bruises them instead. But even bruised hearts keep beating. Even cracked foundations can grow wildflowers, and sometimes the person you become after the hurt is stronger, softer, and wiser than the person you were before. So no, I don't regret helping Julia. I don't regret the money, the support, or even the heartbreak. Because what I gave came from love. And love, when given freely, is never wasted. Even if it takes time. even if it takes detours, it always finds its way home.